It might be. Say hi to everyone over on my channel.
Well, hello. Hello, everybody. I'm Dave.
So it might be over there. But hello, everyone. I'm on with Dave. I'm on his channel. And I just saw a button to push to stream this over on my channel. We'll see if that works out. But anyway, Dave's in the driver's seat.
Do you think that these veiled comments by Grush and Burchett are media hype? Or do you think that there is something that they are hiding?
Well, I don't know. I really don't know. I can't tell you, because, I want to believe that David Grush is being sincere. He has that about him. He seems like he's a sincere person. Burchett, he gets a lot of ridicule for this, because of what he's been trying to do. But I think he's made some progress. I mean, he's at least pushed some things forward. And I had him, on my show, and I had some people like complaining that, he's full of, what. So I don't know. I think he's trying to get somewhere with the topic.
I love the way he's attacking it. I also love the way how he has defined the difference between UFO and UAP. I also like the fact that he is not giving up on the subject, and when he says he's going to take it right to the president's mouth, he does it.
Right.
At least, that we're taking him at his word for it. I mean, after he says he's going to do it, all of a sudden, you hear Trump talking about UFOs, and it leads to aliens.gov that's apparently going to be activated here.
That's right.
Soon. What do you think about aliens.gov?
I think it's interesting. It may be just another distraction. I don't know. I did see when that was when they went for that URL name, and thought that was very interesting. So we will see. Maybe you hear that this administration here in the States, this is going to be the disclosure administration, whether it is or not, and then you also hear, or I've heard myself many times, that 2027 was the year, and that's coming right up. So who knows? We may see something. But I'm not holding my breath. And the reason I'm not holding my breath is because I don't think that they know the full picture. This is my theory. I don't think they know the full picture. And because they don't know the full picture, they can't say whether they can protect us, whether we're safe or we're, on the menu at some point. So I don't think that we're going to get full disclosure about this topic anytime soon.
I don't believe we're going to get disclosure either. I mean, I have been on that bandwagon, but I also believe that we are going to get some sort of confirmation that there is something happening. And I still believe that the easiest way out of this is for somebody like President Trump to come up and say, we found a signal. We found a signal deep in space from a Goldilocks planet, and this signal is not sounds from space. We believe that it is made from something else, potentially another life form. That's their easiest way out of this.
That definitely would. Yeah, I can understand where you're going with this. And that may be what happens. For real.
Well, we're going to see. We're totally going to see, and now we just have to wait. What do you think's going to pop up on that aliens.gov? Do you think we're actually going to get the videos?
All those 46 videos that we were promised. That would be an interesting start, I would say. So I don't know when that's going to be active, but I'm sure there are people checking it every few minutes.
I'm sure there is. I mean, it'll hit X before you and I even know it's actually
Yeah.
happening. But I mean, everything seems to. But do you think then, when you look at the depth of this subject with your experience, do you think that we're going to get all 46 videos, or do you think we're going to get a couple of grainy photos of, from bad camera optics from a helicopter or a jet fighter like we normally seem to get?
That's what I think. I don't think we're going to get all 46. I think it's going to be selective, and probably, like at, I'm trying to remember when it was. Uh, was it the hearing where, yes, it was one of the hearings, the third hearing, where they showed basically the balloon. And it's like, it was a Mylar balloon. And it's like, come on, you got better stuff than that. And it's and that other one, the last hearing where they had the missile, hit the balloon, that type of thing. So I know some people think that's a real UFO and all that, but people that really study that say it was some type of, flexible target or something like that. Or so I don't know if that's ever really been proven one way or the other.
Well, we're still waiting for confirmation on what was shot down with the weather balloons from China.
Right. Which I was right underneath, by the way. I don't know if
I
I ever
remember
told
you
you that.
saying that. You got to tell
Yeah.
that story.
Yeah. Well, okay. So the Chinese balloon, I heard about it, and it was in the Midwest. And then Donna and I went on a music cruise. So we're out in the Caribbean, and we came back and we were looking at real estate in different places. And then we drove up to Myrtle Beach. Didn't really like it that much, by the way, but we drove up. No offense to anyone that lives there. I love it, actually. So anyway, we drive up there, and the real estate agent pulls us up to a house, and we get out of the car, and the real estate agent says, "Well, there's a Chinese balloon up there." And I look up, and I says, "Yeah, that looks just like it." He goes, "No, it is it." And just then we saw the fighter jet come right at it. I had my camera out and watched the missile and watched it pop. And watching it float down very, very, took a long time. I think it was 65,000 feet or something like that. And you could see the solar panels like twinkling in the sunlight as it was coming down. And so that was pretty amazing. I mean, what are the odds of that? And so Dawn is saying, Martin does a show on UFOs. And the guy's like, huh? But it was, and then I put it on Twitter, and I was contacted by NPR, and they said they interviewed a bunch of people, but they only put my story in, which I thought was kind of cool. But yeah, that was fun to be there at that time.
Did they put you in as a podcast host, or did they put you
Oh
in?
man, I pushed it. I said, by the way, I do a show on UFOs, and I just happened to be there. And nope, there was no mention of it. Just that I was just someone getting out of the car in Myrtle Beach. So,
That would have been incredible. We have about 2 minutes to go before we have to go to break at the top of the hour. From podcastufo.com, Martin Willis is here tonight on Spaced Out Radio. Do you think we have non-human intelligence here?
I think it's actually possible, but it doesn't necessarily mean that it's coming from somewhere else. How do you like that?
Where do you
Maybe
think it's
another
coming?
dimension. I mean, it may not be extraterrestrial, but I think that it's possible. But I'm only saying it's possible. I'm not saying I believe it. So I'm just trying to keep an open mind to it.
So do you think that they are here visiting us or living among us?
I I think that, the question that Lou Elizondo said, at least on my show, and I know he said it in others, what if we're not the top of the food chain here? What if there's something that's been here all along with a higher intelligence? And think of all the ways we detect things around us all the time. Perhaps something's here that we can't detect and comes in and out. I don't know. Is that is it another dimension? I don't really know. But I'm open to all the theories of the possibilities.
What do you think will happen if people find out it's true?
That particular?
Yeah.
Well, it certainly would have a lot of people probably pretty nervous if that were true, if they really knew for sure. But how would you prove it? That's the thing. And even if someone like a president said this is happening, they'd have to show some type of proof, because at least 50% of the Americans wouldn't believe, a president, whether it's the current one or another one, in my opinion.
And on that note, we're going to get you to hold on right there. We're through 1 hour on Spaced Out Radio with Martin Willis from Podcast UFO. We'll be back in a few minutes with hour number 2. More UFO talk coming up.
This is Spaced Out Radio with host Dave Scott.
All right, Martin, we got about 5.5 minutes. Just going to play a video here. You sit back, relax, okay?
Yep. Sounds good.
Our merch is Bigfoot approved. We have t-shirts, we have mugs, we have hoodies, we have socks, we have hats, we have stickers, and so much more. Whatever you're looking for, we have you covered. Why just be a fan of the paranormal when you can buy Spaced Out Radio merch and look the part? Our merch ain't ugly, folks. Check out the Spaced Out Radio store. Find the link in the description below.
Lurking within the forested region of the 108-mile ranch, where the worlds of the normal and paranormal collide. CaribouCon is waiting for you, bringing together a panel of renowned experts in the paranormal, cryptid research, and UFO phenomena fields. Get ready for a spine-tingling weekend in the heart of British Columbia. Enjoy fascinating discussions, presentations, tours of local haunted areas, and skywatching. Learn from investigators, authors, and enthusiasts who explore everything from ghost hunting techniques to sightings of Sasquatch and beyond. Whether you're a seasoned paranormal researcher or just love a good spooky story, this is your chance to connect with fellow enthusiasts in one of BC's most mysterious areas. Tickets are on sale now. Grab yours before they're gone. Visit CaribouCon.com for details, tickets, and updates.
Are you ready to dive into the weird and wonderful world of cryptids, cartoons, and chaos? Meet Dirty Filth, Spaced Out Radio's resident cartoonist and master of the mysterious. Every Saturday at 2 p.m. Pacific, join him live on the Spaced Out Radio YouTube channel for Cryptid Cartoons with Dirty Filth, a hilarious hour where he sketches bizarre beasts, shares mind-bending stories, and battles his mischievous cats. Whether you're a UFO enthusiast, paranormal fan, or just love quirky art, Dirty Filth filters the universe through his unique lens, creating cartoons that capture the strange, dark, and supernatural. Follow Dirty Filth on X at Filth1 or Facebook at Dear Filth for more filthy fun. Find his link in the description below.
Spaced Out Radio wants to hear from you. We love our community, and your voice truly matters. Drop a comment after every show and let us know what you thought. Agree with our guests? Tell us why. Disagree? We want to hear that too. We read every single comment. Jump into the live chat during the broadcast and be part of the conversation in real time. Got a killer topic idea? Your suggestions help shape the show. And if you want to take it even further, join our Patreon for bonus content and direct feedback opportunities with Dave and the team. This is your show as much as it is ours. Whether you're a longtime listener or brand new, we want your thoughts, your questions, and your ideas. And let's keep building this incredible community together. Spaced Out Radio, where the conversation never ends. What are you waiting for? We're listening.
With 5 explorable Gold Rush-era buildings said to be home to spirits of a time forgotten, the 108-mile heritage site in the heart of BC's Caribou region offers a unique opportunity for thrill seekers and history buffs. For an evening of historical fun, step into our guided ghost tours, where spine-chilling stories of Gold Rush legends and unexplained encounters come alive. For those craving even more, inquire with us about conducting a hands-on paranormal investigation of your own. And if you're truly brave, book our haunted sleepovers. Spend the night at our B&B inside the McNeil House to truly experience this historical landmark and its ghostly secrets firsthand. For booking or inquiries, go to haunted108.com.
All right, we got Martin, we got Dave, and we're kind of having a few things going on and hanging on out. It's been a good show so far.
That's right. And I just found out that I can, now that I'm linked and streaming over on my own channel, I can actually comment. And I want to say hi. I just said hi to everybody in the chat. So,
Yes. If you haven't already, give us a thumbs up. It helps with our algorithms. We're trying for 125 tonight. 125. Here we go.
Nice.
Hour 2. We have hour number 2 of Spaced Out Radio now underway. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you very much for tuning us on in wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. We'll get back to Martin Willis from Podcast UFO momentarily, but first, we want to say hello to all of you listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on every major podcast network. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. You can follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Malacophanus. Malacophanus is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. From podcastufo.com, Martin Willis, one of the longtime UFO researchers, UFO podcasters, is here tonight with us to hang on out as we talk about these great subjects that keep us looking into the sky at night. Martin, thank you so much for being here.
thank you. It's been my pleasure. A lot of fun.
We got you until the top of the hour here. And of course, you know, with the UFO study right before we were talking about non-human intelligence. Where do you think if we do have crash retrievals, where do you think they're hiding them?
Well, if we have them in the States, then you can pretty much count on the fact that they're in private hands, private corporations, because they're outside of, any governmental reach. So I know that when there was the, I'm trying to remember what it was called. They were trying to pass this UFO bill last year. The Schumer
Rounds bill.
That's it. Rounds. Yes. Thank you. So the Schumer rounds, in that they had this eminent domain over these things that they were going to put out to all these private corporations. that could have something like this type of technology. And so that was dead in the water. There's no way that was going to get passed. So, I mean, just if you just picture it logically, if you have something that could be worth an infinite amount of money, if you can figure it out, if you happen to have it, would you give that up? By no means. And these corporations have a lot of power. They have a lot of power for, who they donate to for the next campaign, all this stuff. So, the way our system is breeds corruption, really, basically. I mean, that's really the bottom line. The lobbying system and all that. Lobbying is good. It's good for when people really need it, but not for corporations to make lots and lots of money. That's where it's been misused. So I don't know, but I imagine it's in private corporations.
Do you think then that if that is the case, where the corporations, whether it's Lockheed Martin or any other defense company, is out there doing their thing, trying to lead us astray, so to speak, do you think that they are the ones who are really calling the shots on this subject, or do you think there is some sort of shadow government out there that might be doing that?
I would think that it's probably they're involved, if not calling the shots. They have power. That's what I would think. If they have these things to begin with, there had to be all these deals made, between them and whoever was doing it in the government, if that's the case. I don't know 100% sure if that is the case, that we actually do have the crashed vehicles. You hear about it enough. It's interesting. It's possible. Then, the thing you hear about the skeptic side is, how could it get here from wherever it came from, and why would it crash? That's how a lot of people, will approach that. And then, some are saying that they're shot down. There's that case where I was lucky enough to be one of the only few people to interview Jonathan Wygant, who was in Peru in 1997. And I believe his story. So I guess I believe that there are craft, because I spent a lot of time with Jonathan and face to face. And, what he claims he witnessed was, I'll tell the story basically, that he was part of Operation Laser Strike, and it had to do with drug runners mostly. And something was going through without any transponder and was shot down. And they basically had to, I don't know if he said it was shot down or not, or they saw it crash. I can't really remember. But he went 3 hours with Humvees in the bush in Peru. And when they got there, he was leading with 2 sergeants. He was there. 3 of them left everyone else, and they went over this hill, and they saw these trees. He said it looked like they were cut with a butter knife. They were just all cut and knocked down. And then up on a rise and sort of a cliff was an embedded, like egg-shaped craft. So, and the things he described, and he was absolutely traumatized talking about this. I mean, this was no BS. I really do believe his story. He walks up to the craft, and it's changing colors, like in the rainbow, sort of the chemical rainbow. He explained it's like when you're washing your car and you see the bubbles and the different colors going through it. And the whole craft was changing colors like this. And there was liquid draining out of it. And the liquid was also changing colors as it was dripping down. And he got some on him. And when he was climbing the ridge and hanging on to the craft, he got some on him, and it took the hair off of his, hair off of his skin. And then his camouflage all like disintegrated in a couple of days. So he's up there looking at this craft, and the 2 sergeants are down below, and he sees this like first of all, he sees damage. Like he says, he thinks it was hit with a missile. I can't remember, a Raptor missile, I think he said. The way it had the damage, he's seen other craft, fighter jets that had been hit by those things, and he saw what it looked like. He said it looked just like that. And so there was this like porthole that was kind of open, and he's up where he can just about look in, and he sees a hand, like a bluish hand with 3 fingers or something like that. And then he had a hard time talking about any of this stuff. He really did. He was traumatized, totally traumatized. And he's had a lot of things happen since. And he does not look healthy either. And so he felt like whatever it was needed help, like he was like communicating. He could feel that communication. And the thing was like wedged in the rock. And all of a sudden, all these military type people showed up with American accent. They all had black fatigue, and they all had American weapons, and they took over the situation, and they treated him really poorly, threatened his life, put him in the helicopter, flew him out of there. And he is speculating that they are from the Department of Energy. So I thought that was really interesting, because they would be involved in nuclear accidents, things like that. So I believe this guy's story all the way through, and he's had a lot of different weird things happen since then. He had like a Men in Black situation. He's not talked about that publicly. I couldn't get him to talk about it publicly, but he had his grandmother. He wouldn't tell his grandmother of the situation. She was a math teacher she was a professor, and she was home one day, and his car was there, and this car pulled right in and actually like hit his car that was parked in the driveway. He rode to work with a friend, and there was a knock on the door, and the grandmother was telling him the story. She opened the door, and there was a weird guy in a black suit, and he just saying, "Jonathan Wigand, I need to speak with Jonathan Wigand." And she said, "He's not here." And she basically chased him out of the, get away. And she saw there was another guy dressed like right at him in this car. So the car takes off, and it left the bumper. It had hit his car, left the bumper, and he took the license plate, and he gave it to a friend of his that was involved in the police department, and it was a government vehicle. I mean, it's so bizarre that it's the story, but I have to say I 100% believe him. And it's quite a story and quite a pill to swallow, but I believe this guy is telling the truth. I don't see any signs of any type of deceit.
There are so many stories like that around that I just don't think everybody is trusting to come to the public anymore with it. Because of the ridicule, because of the harassment, because of government agents, or worst case scenario, your story gets on X, and you have all of those people having to deal with it. I mean, how do you look at that? Why would a person want to come out and say their story? And should they?
Well, I'll tell you what, I coaxed him for over a year to get him to talk. And he connected, someone that listened to my show knew him, and they connected me, but it took me 40 hours of talking to him on phone calls. I mean, like every few days, it was a lot to get him on. And he would talk about it. But as soon as I had the camera turned on, now he liked Donna, and Donna wasn't in the room. And he said to me afterwards, "Why didn't she do the interview? Why didn't you tell me?" She wouldn't have normally done the interview, but still, he clammed up as soon as that camera went on, and he asked me if I could turn off the light. And then I felt like, oh man, he must feel like he's getting interrogated or something. And he finally let loose a little bit, but he wouldn't go very far. So then Mike Herrera and I were talking. He had, a very similar situation in Indonesia. And some people said that he was kind of copying Jonathan Wigand. I don't think so. But anyway, So I said, Mike, would you be willing to come on my show if I get Jonathan back? So I got him and Jonathan talking to each other, and Jonathan was comfortable. And so I go, good. So now I rented an Airbnb up near where he lived in North Carolina. Took 4 hours to get there or whatever from where I am this time of year in South Carolina. So we get up there, Airbnb, we get him whatever he wants, to make him happy and whatever. And Mike Herrera is all ready to talking about the whole situation. I couldn't get Jonathan to open up, and we took him to dinner ahead of time. We said, you really, really have to talk this time, okay? Yeah, okay. And then as soon as the camera went on again, it was like pulling teeth. So he just gets really emotional, and he's really, that to me gives him some credibility. He didn't want any popularity or anything. As a matter of fact, I called him when I was at Washington, D.C., and had met David Grush that day. And some people were getting in touch with David Grush about his case, which, by the way, he did confirm that there was something that happened around that time. So anyway, so I said, yeah, David Grush, the whistleblower that's talking about, crash UFOs and all that. And he goes, who? I don't care about anyone else. I don't care about anyone in the UFO world. I don't want anything to do with it, So I'm just saying, he was not looking for any type of notoriety or fame. I just talked him into it. And I do believe that he regretted it.
What do you think the biggest cover up is? Why does there seem to be so much angst regarding this subject?
Well, I think it goes back to what I said earlier. I think the full picture is not out there. I don't think any part of our government has the full picture, or any other government. So because of that, how much information can you give? Can you say, oh, yes, something is happening, something is visiting? At least our government has said something along the lines where, yes, there is something happening. We don't know what it is. Maybe they know. I think they know more. I definitely think they know much more, but than the average person looking into this topic, or anyone in particular looking into this topic. But I still don't think they have the full picture, and that's why someone's going to be slamming the brakes.
What do you think they do not know that the public thinks they know?
That's a fun question. I think a lot of the public does think they know the full picture. I do think that. And, it's just my own theory. But I think, I like what Jacques Vallée said one time. I know he said it publicly, but during a conversation I had with him, he was saying that, perhaps it's something we wouldn't understand. And I think that's very possible. And by that, we just have so much capacity to understand things, and maybe it's something we just would not understand. I actually think that could be.
You see, I want to add something to what you said, though. I think what we are seeing right now is more of a protection of the toys that have been made by the military industrial complex. Whether it's the drones, whether it's the futuristic fighter jets or cargo craft, or, whether they've already developed anti-gravitics or whatever it may be. I think that's really what this is all about. You can deny UFOs all you want. It's the UAP aspect that I think they're scared of coming out, because that's all their secret money that they have been taking from these trillions of dollars that seem to go missing every year, Martin.
Yeah. No, I'm inclined to agree. And, we're always looking for better ways to kill each other. And there's all kinds of money in that, which is crazy, but and unfortunate. AI might do that to us all anyway. That might take care of the problem. I don't know. We're the problem. But yeah, I think that it's possibly protected in many ways like that, and it all comes down to money and power.
Who do you think's holding the keys to this?
Who?
Yes.
I don't think it's like one entity holding the keys. I think that there's some type of arrangement and agreements, but I don't think it's definitely like the president of the United States at any given time or any part of the government. But I think it might be in unison, again, with like you said, Lockheed Martin and places like that, who may have actually some type of craft from somewhere else, whether it's another dimension, another planet, another whatever. But I don't think it's just like one person you can point to holding the keys. I really don't.
Do you think then that there is this shadow government that is out there that is hiding this story?
It's very possible, but how? But what role would they play other than just doing that? Whoever it is, I mean, how could you picture that as far as just like top secret and only a few people know? And what do they do with it? What's the other part of their existence? What's it all about?
I often wonder that same question. Really, what is it all about? Because it just seems like we're going around in circles.
Yeah. I feel that way too. I have many times since I started this, like we think, oh, this is going to happen and this solves everything. And then we take the steps backward again, like the silly Roswell slides, for those of you who have been around a while and paid attention to that coming out. And now it's the Booga sphere. And I think that's another thing that I just don't have any hope in it being anything real, especially when certain people are involved. That's all I'll say about that.
Who's the certain people?
You just heard me say that's all I'll say about that.
I had to ask.
Yeah. Well, there's a certain person in Mexico that has been kind of involved in a lot of things that have been false. I'll just put it that way. And someone that's known in America that's been involved in a lot of things too. And on the money side of this whole UFO topic. And, there's no real money in this topic unless you get really way out there and do spectacular things like certain people have done. Only a few.
Okay, I'm going to play devil's advocate here for a second because there's a lot of people who will listen to that statement, Martin, and say, you're sounding a little bitter.
Well, yes, I am bitter. I'm bitter of hoaxes. I don't like hoaxes at all. That they really piss me off, to be honest with you. I really think that, there's enough really great stuff that has happened and to look into. And when people muddy the waters with these hoaxes, it's just ridiculous. It just takes the whole UFO topic, we can be pointed at and laughed at, on so many occasions because of those people that do these things. And, just trying to make a buck or be famous or whatever it is. No, well, let's just deal with the real stuff that people are seeing and trying to figure out instead of creating things and causing chaos and, getting people's hopes up. And when it's the same way I feel about in the antiques and art world, when people are collecting and they're real excited about an artist or they're real excited about, let's just say, people collect cast iron mechanical banks. They love them. and there's all different types of ones from mostly from the 1870s, 1880s, mostly. And so they can make fakes so good that the only way you can tell that they're not fake is by measuring the original pattern size, because cast iron shrinks a very little bit. And if it's a little bit tinier than the size it's supposed to be, then it's probably right. But that's the only way you can tell. So these people get spending all this money on these cast iron. I'm just making an example, or
Right.
an artist.
I'm going to get you to hold on right there because it's hard
Yep.
to believe we're already through an hour and a half with you.
Okay.
We have Martin Willis from Podcast UFO for the next 30 minutes. We're going to try and get some audience questions as well. So if you're in our YouTube chat, put your questions in capital letters. PodcastUFO.com is his website, same as his YouTube channel. Podcast UFO, go hit subscribe. This is Spaced Out Radio.
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with your host, Dave Scott.
All right, buddy. We are clear.
All right. Clear for the YouTube side, right?
Nope, just clear for the radio side.
Oh, I mean, we're still on the YouTube side only
Yes.
right now. Yeah. Okay. So I'll hold
Yeah.
that thought until the radio comes back.
All right.
Yeah.
That sounds good.
Yeah.
All right. Let's give a shout out to Once Over with Kaylee. Welcome to SOR chat. Who else has jumped in here? Let's take a little peek here. Les Paul Holland, how you doing? Aaron the Tree. Pardon me, Aaron the Tree. Philip Blair, how are you? Animal Mother, how are you? Goose, nice to see you. Who else is here? We're packed tonight. We are packed.
We have someone from Australia, I think.
Yeah, we got
Visiting.
a number from Australia that come in. Channel Warhorse, how are you? Grantavius Minimus Mustache, how are you? And I like that name. Maker of Stuff. Undead Jed, how are you? SG Nav Spotter, nice to see you. Contrary One, thanks for coming on in. Mark Fry, listening in on Martin's channel. How are you? Are you speaking anywhere this year, Martin?
I'm going to be at the Exeter UFO Festival. It seemed
Nice.
like last year I had a lot of things going on, and this year I was going to go up to Canada, but I decided it's just during a time where it's going to be tough for me for the Shag Harbor. I've been up there a number of times,
Yeah.
and speaking and emceeing, and yep. So I may. I've been contemplating going to the MUFON event, just to meet a few people out there, and that's always fun. But how about yourself?
I had 2 Bigfoot conferences cancel on me. Just due to the event. One didn't sell enough tickets. That was for May in Comox. They're trying to reschedule for I think Halloween weekend. And I'm not going to be able to make that. I got too much going on. And then the Nebraska Bigfoot conference got canceled like 6 weeks before we were supposed to head out there. And it was supposed to be it would have been this past weekend. And I'd spoken there twice. The building that they did it in all of a sudden wanted a bunch of changes to their contract that they had, and they reneged the contract. So yeah, it was a little shitty about that.
Yeah.
So now they're going to get out of that area and they're going to put it in Omaha next year. So I'm going to go back there next year. But that was a fun one.
I really like the Ozark Mountain UFO Festival, I think it's called. It's in Eureka Springs, and it's absolutely a great time. Love that. It's a small
Nice.
conference, but it's a really good one.
I like the
And-
smaller ones. They're more intimate. Talk to people more.
Right. Yeah.
That's why I love UFO Con.
Yeah, that's right. And I may be up there next year for that one.
Yeah. I also have my own event going on this year called Caribou Con.
I saw that you misspelled caribou.
No, that's the way it's spelled up here.
Is it really? Come on.
You know, I'm serious. Yeah, Caribou Con. We're putting it together. It's our first year, and we're gonna hopefully it all goes to raise money for our local museum. So it'll be good. We're coming back right now. We are into the second half of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. We got Martin Willis here from Podcast UFO. If you want to check it on out, it's podcastufo.com. Let's bring Martin in right off the bat. Thank you for being here, Martin. We really appreciate it.
Absolutely. And shall I go mid-rant from where I was at?
I want you to rant because I asked you right before the break, what got you frustrated?
So I was making an analogy that in the life of what I've had in the antiques and art world, like when people are collecting, they get all excited about something that's real, say an artist that they collect and all that. Well, when there's money to be made, people make fakes. And that's just the way it is, whether it's paintings or really, treasured antiques that are easily faked, like cast irons, one of them I mentioned earlier. And so someone will be collecting along and all excited about collecting. And then all of a sudden they find out that they bought a fake. And they'll say, damn, I'm not doing this anymore. I'm done. I'm out. I'm gone. So that's what I don't like about the hoaxes in the UFO world. Is because it does the same thing. People just dip their toe in the water. They're all excited about learning all this. And then they found out, oh, this is a bunch of BS. And I was totally sold on it. And so I'm out of here. A bunch of idiots. I'm done. So that's kind of the way I feel about what hoaxes can do, that someone just looking into the topic and getting excited about it, that there's something to it. And then the thing like the Roswell slides comes along, and that was just mummies, slides of mummies, and it was hidden from everybody until it was Cinco de Mayo when it came out. I can't even remember what year it was, 2013 or 14, something like that. And it ends up being people were able to just within an hour, they could decipher the placard that just basically was talking about a Native American mummy. That's what it was in a museum taken around 1947. And there was a big press conference. Richard Dolan was there, but he won't talk about it. Don Schmidt was involved. Don and Tom Carey. And Don has been on my show and publicly apologizing to everyone for being involved in that. I like Don Schmidt. He's a good guy. And
always has a good tie on too.
Yes. Yeah. He's quite a singer too. He's a chorus singer or something like that. Pretty, but anyway, He's a good guy. I like him. I was out in Sedona, met up with him last year, and with a bunch of people at Travis Walton's 50th. That was fun.
So when you look at your frustrations, then is it with the UFO field or the subject itself?
My frustrations is when people are being selfish and trying to make money on the topic and misleading people. That's the only beef. I know there's a lot of infighting. I don't get involved in any of that. I did a little bit recently just because I was trying to defend someone that was on my show. So I got involved with that, and it didn't go well. So I just stay away from any of that. I don't want to get involved in the Twitter fighting. So basically, that's really it.
Where do you see the subject going? Like once we get through all of this aliens.gov, the grainy videos that we're going to need rabbit ears to focus in on, the the talking tough of politicians. I mean, how quickly I'm just going to just sidetrack here for a second. But when this all started a couple of years ago, the two main players in the game were Marco Rubio and Kirsten Gillibrand. Now it seems like they're silent on the topic. Now we have Luna, we have Burchett, we have Burleson, Nancy Mace when she's not debating whether or not she's running for governor. Okay. When are we going to see all of this kind of come to fruition? Like, what do you see happening?
Well, we are in interesting times for sure. And, when these people, whether they, like you mentioned, if Nancy Mace becomes governor, she's not going to be involved anymore in that aspect of it. And I don't know why Gillibrand is silent. Or Rubio, of course, has his position that he does in the cabinet. So, but maybe he still has some influence in that. Burleson, I think, is doing a really good job. He's really into it, and but I don't know if they're instrumental in really moving the needle or not. They hit up against the wall like Carter did, and all these other people that were in office at the time that wanted Jimmy Carter and also Bill Clinton. They wanted to find answers and didn't really get anywhere. So I think that we could see a repeat of that. I'm not really sure. So as far as where the whole thing is going, I guess it's always a bad idea to predict the future. I mean, I do think that right now is a very interesting time. I mentioned earlier about AI might wipe us all out. That's possible. But it's also very hard to understand what we're looking at today, whether it's real or not. So you see constant fakes on even people that have popular UFO Facebook pages. They're getting sold on these AI, videos. And I saw something on X the other day someone sent me. I have some people send me stuff all the time. One person in particular probably sends me 30 things a day. And one of them was a video on X, and that was supposed to be, I'm trying to remember exactly where it was, but it was the clearest UFO video I've ever seen. And so the first thing, what do I think? First thing I think is AI. And I don't know how to tell there are like places where you can decipher whether it's AI or not, but I don't know how to access any of that. So it's hard to know what to believe.
I think you can just put the video in Grok or one of those sites and ask if this is AI created.
I've done that. And it's not always, I have done that with ChatGPT, but I haven't done it with Grok, but I might try that.
I see this going into this death spiral. Eventually, they're going to get tired of talking about it because nothing's going to happen and nothing's going to come out.
I agree.
The only thing that really keeps it going is the passion whether you like it or not, the passion of people like Jeremy Corbell, like Tim Burchett, and others to keep the conversation going.
Right. No,
Is
I
it a-
think it very well could just die off. I've been thinking that for the last few years and kind of surprised that it keeps going as far as it has. But I thought, well, okay, we have these hearings and not enough news was covering it. You know, I mean, I was kind of disappointed in that. I thought it was a big deal. You know, the first one with David Rush, there was 1,000 people, over 1,000 people showed up for 35 seats. And luckily I was there early enough that I was the second to last in the door. The other one I went to, there was more seats and I got in right behind Lou Elizondo in that one. But I keep thinking that it's going to do exactly what you're saying. Like they'll get frustrated. It's not going to go anywhere. There's so much more the news is covering. So why even bother? You know, there's so much more that they'll deem important. Myself, it's very important to me. But when someone is dealing with everything the government's dealing with, our government is dealing with, it's probably way down on the list unless it's a threat. You know, that's the thing. And I do think that a lot of the cover up will always be in the name of national security. We can't tell you this because of national security. I think we'll hear a lot of that.
And at some point that's gotta end.
Mm-hmm.
One way or another, it has to end because not everything is national security.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if you see and report a UFO or a fighter pilot reports a UFO, that's not national security. It's a sighting.
Right. Mm-hmm. I have a friend in the antiques world. Just made me think about when you said fighter jet. So he lives in the Toronto area, and he's an appraiser. And he and I did. We had like 5 or 6 appraisers in this big, really big. I think it was over a $10 million divorce settlement in Georgia, and so we were all involved in that. So we got to know each other, and then I think I accidentally posted something on my regular Facebook page about UFOs. And like I said in the beginning, when I was doing this, I was nervous to talk about it because, you know, there was a lot of ridicule involved. So anyway, he saw my post or whatever, and then he says, "Hey, can I call you?" And I said, "Sure." So he was saying that he was a few years ago. Now it's 10 years ago anyway. He was out on his deck during a party, and there was a whole bunch of people there, and they heard this afterburner, and they look up, and it's like this 2 jets chasing a disc, and the disc is right in front of them and goes right by like this. And all of a sudden, the disc just goes gone, and so he thought it was like the end of the world. Here he is; he's never paid attention to UFOs at all, and he said he couldn't believe, and he couldn't get anyone to talk about it. And then he said, then he's watching the news. He's nothing. He watches the newspaper. There's nothing in the paper. And he says, what's going on? How can this happen? Like in front of the public and everyone see it. And then no one does anything about it, you know? So, you know, I love hearing stories like that of people like, I don't want to say on the outside, but someone that you just may casually run into, and they have a great story like that. Unrelated to the field. They don't pay attention to the field.
The way the media has treated this, you know, the mainstream media, where it's no longer the tinfoil hat, X-Files music type of subject matter anymore. Do you think they're doing enough to keep the story going?
Well, I think there are some, you know, I have to hand it to News Nation for doing such a great job on this topic. You know, they're a fairly new news media. And there's a few others, but it does surprise me sometimes that a lot of people won't touch it. A lot of media will not touch it or talk much about it or give it much credence. But occasionally you'll see something like on CNN or something like that, more than you used to. for sure.
Let's get to some audience questions here.
All right.
John is asking, with a high profile person, I would guess the local police have been told to stand down. Oh, maybe that really doesn't have anything to do with UFOs. Please don't type in capital letters if you're just making a comment. Let's go to T-Bone here. Martin, what about the UFO so big they built a building around it? Any clues?
Well, you hear these things. I really don't know anything about that in particular, but you do hear about, people saying that the triangles that may be a mile wide are ours, somehow anti-gravity and all that gliding across the sky like the Phoenix Lights. And I don't know, like, it makes me always think, if that's possible, where do they hide it? So I don't know about this particular one. Thank you, T-Bone. I'm just not really sure about this particular one you're talking about. But
This is one Ross Coulthard has been talking about. A lot of people are suggesting it might be somewhere in South Korea, or somewhere in that area.
Interesting. Wow. I have not heard that. I've watched a lot of what he does, but I didn't catch that.
Let's go to another one. Let's go to Stargazer. Why do you think NASA will not release their photos or information?
I think that's a really good question, and why, I don't know. There's been a lot of speculation. I remember that woman came forward, several years ago, that said that she saw them, washing out these photos, and she actually saw some things in some of the photos that they were working on to erase, basically, before they released them. And then, of course, who am I thinking of? Gary, the hacker, Gary McKinley?
Heseltine.
No, Gary McKinley?
Or Gary McKinnon, yeah.
McKinnon. He claims when he was in their site that he saw a craft. He was able to hack into enough to see a craft. And supposedly he's coming on my show. I don't know if that'll ever happen or not. That'd be nice. But so, yeah, I think there's really something to it. And, a lot of the stuff that people see in space, though, is like ice and things like that look like orbs, things like that. But there are some really interesting things. And Space Lab back in 1969 or 70, Alan Bean, who was the fourth person to walk on the moon, I actually had him on another podcast I do because he's an artist, and he passed away a few years ago. Nice man. But I could not get him on my UFO show to talk about the Space Lab UFO incident, which was quite an interesting one.
Isn't it interesting how many of these astronauts will make comments and then they just kind of disappear from it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's like, I've already said it. I've already done, not talking about it anymore. And that's it.
Yeah. Yeah. I can understand. They probably don't want the hassle, they're public figures, these people. They have quite a life. And especially the people that walked on the moon. That was pretty amazing. I think it was 12. I can't remember exactly how many, but who knows? It's going to be happening again, hopefully within a few years.
It always makes me wonder what the crew on the last mission saw. I always wonder about that.
Oh, yeah.
But NASA does have their problems. They have so many. The fact that they even have the gall or the audacity to not even acknowledge what has already been released by them, from their test pilots of the X-15 to their rockets going up from Gemini right through Apollo and the shuttle missions. These guys were seeing things, and there is transcripts and recordings of this, and yet NASA won't even acknowledge it. Like,
right.
They really have stymied somehow their way into just shutting this up.
Absolutely. And what was it? 2 years ago, they said they were funding UFO research for a whopping $100,000. Do you remember that? That would buy them lunch. I mean, it's ridiculous. I mean, with a budget, $100,000. Well, I don't know where they got with that, but how far they got with that. But I do think that they, do I want to call it a cover up? Possibly. It might be, because there certainly is a lot of signs of that.
I think the most impressive one for me was when in the 1960s, when they were testing out the X-15 rocket jet, and it was up at like 315,000 feet, and it's being followed pace by pace by a UFO outside the cockpit window.
Whoa.
And they were asking him, well, is it ice forming, or is it the sun? And he's like, no. And then all of a sudden the ship just kind of takes off and disappears. And he's like, you got to be kidding me. Like, it's all transcripted.
Wow. I'm not familiar with that. I'm very interested in it.
Oh yeah. If you look up the X-15 UFO cases, it's amazing.
Yeah.
It's absolutely amazing. We have about 4 minutes to go. We got another question here from T-Bone. Martin, are you buying what Chris Bledsoe says?
Well, I've had, I interviewed him a long time ago, way back in the 2011. And I asked him while I was recording, so I understand that you failed a polygraph test when you were talking about the whole situation. I got him pretty upset. And, I had to kill the mic and, calm him down. But I will say that there's something, there seems to be something going on with him, because people have been around him, people that I trust. Actually, I had Anna Brady Estevez, I think that's her name, or something like that, who works for the government. Sarah Gam, they were walking together in Washington, D.C., and all of a sudden they saw these things, he sort of has this weird thing around him. Now, I know last year in Contact at the Desert, people were out there with him, and they said what they saw was, Mark D'Antonio said, oh, that was like a satellite or something. But when he was followed by this film crew up where he lives, they filmed all kinds of things, and it wasn't normal things. These were orbs. And, it was really, something's going on with Chris, and I don't understand exactly how or why. But so do I buy it? I've seen with my own eyes the filming in these things over him, and people that I know have witnessed things happening, around him. So there's something going on with Chris, I got to say.
I know Bob McGuire's story is pretty impressive with him. And I think Chris started out very open and very pure on the subject, but it's almost like a Stan Romanek type of situation. I think it's turning into, where it becomes more performance than it does actual contact.
Very well. I mean, if you listen to the very beginning of his story, he was out hunting or something with his son, and the whole situation in the pickup trucks, and
absolutely
the thing coming up across the river. It's a whole different thing. But John Alexander visited him and said, yeah, there's something actually going on. He saw it himself. This was years ago.
We have time for one more question from UFO Proof. What's your method for separating misidentified human tech from genuine anomalies?
Well, that's not something I would be able to do readily. But I do believe that there are people that can do that. I mentioned Mark D'Antonio. If it comes to something like film and pictures, he's pretty good at that. I mean, I thought I had found something, and he kind of pointed out exactly what it was. So I think, we have to trust some people that really do this all the time. I personally saw what he said was a drone, but I could have sworn it was a very, very high wind, and this thing was doing all types of weird stuff. I have that on film. I filmed it because it was back in 2024 up in Maine. And so I do have that film clip, and a lot of people look at it and say that's not a drone, but I don't know. I will look to see where I thought it was landing, and there was nothing around, so there was no one putting a drone in the back of their truck or anything like that.
On that note, Martin, from podcastufo.com, I want to say a big thank you for you coming back on Spaced Out Radio, my friend. It is always good to have you on the show. And,
Thank you.
You're one of the best out there. I'm going to take my time to brag about you for a second. You're one of the good guys out there. You're one of the best in the field. I recommend our audience checking you out all the time. I really do. So thank you for coming on the show. And coming up in hour number 3, Swamp Dweller and Robin Hayes with a Q&A.
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with your host, Dave Scott.
It's the beauty of having the final word. You couldn't argue with me on that.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And
All right.
thank you everyone for being here. And
We'll talk soon.
2:00 in the morning here. I'm going to bed. Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Stop now! You're under arrest! Hands up! Don't move!